Hey everybody, it's Jimmy and Bill. So today we're not walking because it's raining. So we're just going to do a stand-up video, and today what we're talking about is the confusion in this housing market. Not only are buyers confused, sellers are confused because of NAR, realtors are confused. Everybody's confused. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about why everybody's confused and kind of what our opinions are on the state of the housing market. Because a lot of people are saying, hey, it's going to crash, and there's a lot of signs that the market should crash. And I'm going to go over some stuff, but prices are more like stabilizing than crashing.
Right, yeah, we're still continuing slightly up.
Yeah, in some areas.
Yeah.
We're taking up, but here, I wrote down some things, Inflation continues, remains high. Consumer Price Index just came in.
Yep.
It increased to 3.2% in October.
Right.
Okay, so it's lower than it was versus September when the core CPI was 4% higher because of food and fuel.
Right, yeah, if you've noticed, fuel's starting to come, you can start to see the little dip in price
for
fuel. I've noticed that at the pump, by 30%-ish roughly is come down, which is a good thing, depending on the area you're in. I did notice that, depending on where I was at, how close to the highway, sometimes, kind of affects things.
I mean, fuel is coming down. And,
yeah, it's a good thing.
It's a good thing, but how long is that going to last,
Right.
know? So basically, October 2022, it was 7.7, meaning prices today are nearly 11% higher than they were in 2021. So even though inflation came down, prices are still up 11% from 2021.
Right, for core products.
Right. All right, so American families have lost about $7,000 in spending power during the last 3 years.
Yeah, that makes sense with the inflation the way it is and how much food is gone up overall. That would make the dollar is a little less strong.
Yeah, it's based on people making about $71,000 per year. Now people have to dig into their savings and retirement funds just to pay for the basics.
Right. Yeah, people are dipping into and putting credit cards. I see credit cards are on the rise, now. So that's...
Credit cards exceeded $1 trillion.
Woo, man.
And why am I saying running down this list? Is because we're going to talk about why the housing market is not crashing after all this. So let's keep going. 33% of Americans have less than $100 in their savings account. And I'm going to this is based on an article that just came out, and I'll post it below so you guys can read it yourselves. And only 40% of Americans can pay for a $1,000 emergency expense.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough out there. It really, really is. I understand it. It's very tough out there right now.
So let's keep going. So emergency 401k withdrawals are up 27% this year.
Wow.
So people are digging into their 401ks.
Right.
Just to make ends meet. And it's not for going on vacation and stuff. It's just for paying all basic expenses.
Right.
Like we said, credit card debt surpasses $1 trillion.
God, that's insane.
That is. All right, how about this one? 3 in 5 Americans, 61% are credit card debt owing an average of $5,875. In addition, 23% say they'll go deeper into credit card debt every month, and 14% say they've missed the payment in 2023.
Oh, wow. So I'd be curious to see what that was before, like when everything was kind of normal, before the pandemic, how things were when we were in a little bit better of an economic situation overall, how much that changed.
Yeah, and this whole survey was, basically they're saying, hey, why are you going to debt? You're buying TVs, you're on vacations?
Right.
They're like, no, we're paying for groceries, we're paying for rent.
Yep.
And, we're paying for food.
Yeah.
Like basic groceries, for the food, and, just the basic car expenses.
Everything is up. My auto insurance just went up. We got the notice for the renewals, and it just went up again. And it's the same insurance company I've been with, and I've had no accidents. And it's a good policy, but it went up another $30 a month.
Okay, check this
one out.
Home builder sentiment is at 10-month low.
home builder sentiment.
Yeah, home builder sentiment. You know, especially with rates. Rates dropped a little bit, which is helping, and home builders are basically, we're doing buy down of rates, but they're starting to slow down in doing that because it's costing them a fortune.
Right, and they've used up their buy downs, so because it kind of did increase a frenzy, but now that buy down, we went up to almost 8 and change.
Yeah.
So being able to buy down 2% really didn't bring you down as far as it was, and we did have a little drop, but who knows how long that's going to last. We did get that drop down into the 7s, but that could change because everything's so volatile right now.
And the whole thing too is, I also read this other article. I'm going off this list for a second, but builders ghost inventory. So that means it's homes that they built that they haven't officially put on the market, so they could save money on taxes for whatever reason. Say it's not complete, but eventually, and those are expensive homes because a lot of them they planned these developments years before while things were great.
Right.
And people were paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for homes and paying for more. But now that inventory is going to have to go into the market, which is going to affect the available inventory. Because one of the biggest issues why homes are stable, and we'll continue on to the subject, is because of lack of inventory.
Right.
So it's basically like, so basically the only reason we have not seen a collapse yet for this housing market is basically inventory. It's not the same as 2008.
Right, it's completely different. We are still at a very, very low inventory rate. While we have upticked slightly, depending on your market now, depending on where you are in the country, things may be completely different. But here, we've upticked just a little bit. We're still in that 3-month range, and it's still a very strong seller's market.
Yep.
But the interest rates being as high as they are has really kind of stalled things and pushed people into that builder market because that's where the deals are right now.
So, but here's the other thing, okay? People canceling their contracts on new home purchases reached 16.3% in September.
That's high.
Yeah. So, and even if they, that's 53 cancellation agreements. All right, let's keep going. Foreclosures are up 34% year over year, with more than 150,000 homes in some sort of foreclosure last quarter. And we're going to talk about that, okay? We're going to talk about, but if you look at how many homes sold compared to, we're going to go over all that stuff. Okay?
Yeah.
And, housing, credit card, and automobile repossessions now are up 20%. Everybody's losing their cars.
Right.
So, that was a big intro, okay?
Right.
Full of problems.
Right.
So, we're going to talk about next, why isn't the crash happening like everybody's saying? Because I just gave you a whole list, and you guys can read it yourselves, a whole list of things that are happening.
Right.
And if that information is correct from those articles, for all I know is we're in a free fall. Everybody should just go hide someplace.
Right. I think I've seen a few of those articles too.
Just
hide.
Hide. Yeah. Don't buy nothing, Keep your head down because the apocalypse is happening. Who knows? You know what I mean?
Right.
So anyways, if you like these kind of videos, and I know I'm doing this one late, but if you like these kind of videos, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. It really helps this channel. And let's get started. Okay, Bill. After that long intro and that rant of everything going wrong, if there's no market crash right now, at least in this area, in a lot of areas in the country, why is there so many price cuts that everybody's talking about? Oh my God, this person's dropping 100,000. That person's causing 150,000. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so even it's happening with some of my customers as well, where I've noticed that some properties that we went and looked at, they were a little overpriced. So this is the key here. They're a little overpriced, and there's some retractions, and then now there's starting to become some movement. So really, what's happening? Not all properties, but some properties are just flat out still overpriced for the conditions, whether it be for the interest rates or just plain overpriced for the area. Looking at the comps, comparing comps from like 6 months ago even is not a good practice. You really need to compare comps from the last 30, 60, and then even maybe the 90-day mark. You don't really want to go back too far. Yeah, the
house I'm going to go expect, they wanted $1 million. They're like, well, my neighbor last year got, almost $950.
Right.
And I think my house is nicer.
Right.
So I should be looking at an extra $50,000, but things have changed because of interest rates.
Right, and that's not how a comparative analysis is done. That's not how the bank looks at things. So if you're looking to sell your property and your realtor comes out and does an evaluation of what the property is, when I'm doing an evaluation, I look at actually what has sold recently around you, and I start small and I work my way out, because that's how the bank does it. I know sometimes people will tell you what you want to hear, or on the other flip side, sometimes the person who's selling their house just is like, no, I think it's worth this. And at the end of the day, you're the boss. The seller is the boss. So you have to price, and you have every right to price it that way, but you're probably not going to get as many showings, and you probably have trouble selling it in a timely fashion until there are reductions. And that's what we're starting to see right now, is a lot of reductions to normal pricing.
Well, also, banks are getting stricter too, and a lot of people just don't qualify for a mortgage anymore.
Yeah,
what do you have to make? You have to make like $112,000.
Yeah, it's like $117,000
just to be able to afford a house.
Right.
The average house.
The average $400,000 house.
So, and let me answer this question. Okay, sales of existing homes, excluding new construction, dropped 16.6% year over year in July. Why do you think that happened?
So, as we come out of the summer months, we do start to slow.
Okay,
that's a seasonal. So you'll see seasonal adjustment numbers.
Okay.
So that's seasonal, and that's when things start to slow down. Everybody has different markets. So up north, when you come into the fall and winter, everything starts to slow down.
Okay.
Down here, we slow down here even still a little bit, despite being a destination for the northerners to come down that are kind of snowbirding it. But we do typically see that slowdown year over year, just more on a national level is kind of where they're heading to that. But there are micro markets that'll pick up.
So answer this question now. Why is a new construction home somewhat, in some areas, more affordable than buying a used home? From the construction side, is it because of the buy downs? Because they're doing buy downs of the rates?
Typically, yes. So right now, a lot of the builders, we're just talking like at this moment.
Yeah, in this moment, yeah.
A lot of the builders have a ton of incentives for home buyers to get into their doors. They don't want to hold on to that inventory. They want to move it. They understand that qualifying for a loan is an issue because of the interest rate highs. That's why they're doing buy downs. And some of the builders are also giving you what's called a closing credit towards prepaids and fees from like title companies, things of that nature, anything that they're legally allowed to do. So one of the deals that we just did, they offered a rate buy down plus $14,000 towards closing fees, which was great because it helped those people get into the property.
I saw a YouTube video on real estate, and one of the persons I follow, he said that in Idaho, some state in the Midwest, they're paying for, the construction companies are paying the people's rent in order to get the deal done.
Yeah. So that, believe it or not, that kind of happened back in pre-2008 when we had the crash last time, just because of the way the market was going and people were having trouble selling their houses as the crisis began. But they started doing that. So the point of it is people have to become creative to start getting properties moved. We have to be a little more than just the cookie cutter loan sell. So whether you're doing concessions, rate buy downs, things of that nature, to qualify, you're just kind of moving the shell around a little bit, but it takes some creativity on your real estate agent's part and on your loan officer's part.
So according to Fannie Mae, they did a survey. Fannie Mae found that 85% of Americans think it's a bad time to buy a home. Do you think it's because of everything I just listed in the intro?
Well, it depends on your perspective. So if you think it's a bad time to buy a house because the interest rates are high and you don't qualify, you just don't qualify. So of course it's a bad time to buy a house. But let's look at another perspective. And it's really just going to be, it's depending on you if you're in the market to purchase a house. So right now, there's just not a lot of buyers in the market because the interest rates are high and they can't qualify for the loan.
Yeah, because you need to make like $112,000.
Right, so it takes out a certain segment. So when we had interest rates at 2%, 3%, it opened the door to a lot of people that otherwise would have had to wait a little bit longer to save up some more money to qualify for a loan. But because affordability became so abundant, a flood of people came into the market. Now, interest rates have gone up, has slowed down that flood of people into the market. Our inventory hasn't really changed. Not really. I mean, we're talking not even 1 full percent yet has it changed on the upswing. So that limits your competition. So if you have, as an example, 1,000 houses and you have 1,000 buyers, 1-to-1, you're more competition. But if you only have 200 buyers for those 1,000 houses, that's better. So it starts to shift the tide a little bit. So, and because right now we are still continuing in our area, and for the most part over the nation, month over month you'll see stats that say that we're losing. And you may see a one that bumps low for a month and then comes right back up. But year over year is where you're looking at. People over the last couple of years have become so accustomed to looking at the value of their home on a day-to-day, month-to-month basis like a stock market versus year over year. That's how we used to really look at it. But year over year, we are still up.
Okay, that's good to know.
We are still up. Where we're going to end up, I'm not sure, but up is up, and that's a positive thing, and we need that. So, to answer that question, is it a good time? It just depends. The house, when you buy into it, right? You're buying the house at the lower every year. Think about it. Let's say it's 4%. We end up at 4% overall year over year. Well, then we're going to gain 4% more next year, so that house is worth 4% more. Interest rates still stayed the same. Right? Now you lock in your house price. You can renegotiate your interest rate. You cannot renegotiate the base price of your house.
Right. That's
so,
true.
Again, perspective.
So let's talk about this one. First-time buyers account for nearly a third of home sales during the 12 months ending in June, according to the annual snapshot of National Association of Realtors. A record 70% of the buyers didn't have children under 18 living in the home. So a lot of people, young people, without children, are buying houses. The young professionals. Are you noticing that?
I haven't. Truthfully, I just haven't noticed it in our market as to some major swing. But overall, maybe that's the. I do know that the young professionals are simply just coming into. As we just get rained on.
Yeah, all right.
Young professionals.
See what we do for you? Subscribe. Right. We get rained on.
Young professionals are just statistically they're of age to purchase homes.
Yeah.
So they're starting to swing into the market, and it's the largest group since the baby boomers. So.
All right. So let's talk about this one. Sellers with the low rates aren't selling their houses.
Right.
Okay, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon unless it's a divorce, moving out of state, family emergency.
Right, we've talked about that before.
We talked about it. So basically, that's the biggest hang up.
Right.
People are saying a lot of Airbnbs are going on the market, a lot of the ghost inventory is going to go on the market, and things are going to change. And it's possibly that things could change. But do you agree with that?
Yes, I think that. Yes, there's certain where everybody's kind of called it the lock-in rate right now, and it's where the interest rates are on your property are very low, and you're not going to sell the house because you're not going to trade a 3% interest rate for a 6% interest rate, even if it comes down. When we get back to more of a normal average market. However, you're not going to stay in a house if you just don't have enough space. If you need another room, you're going to move.
So here's something really, really cool I wanted to mention. A lot of people that have been in their houses 10, 15 years that sell now, they take that, they have a lot of equity, and they are able to buy another house, if not with cash, most of the down payment, and they're sitting pretty. So they're the ones who could afford the new houses. But first-time buyers...
It's tough.
It's tough.
Right. So when you've got a house already, and you're selling it, and you've got equity in the house, and you have to move... If you're paying cash for a property and let's say you sell your house outright, or you have just a very little mortgage to pay off because you've been in there for a long time, interest rates don't affect you. They're not going to affect you now, and they never have affected that group of sellers. And that's a group that's there. So it's going to continue to go.
Yep.
But we're also, because everybody's tending to stay in their houses a lot longer, because of the interest rates and just period, people are typically starting to shift to a longer stay in their homes from that 7-year mark to more around a 9-year mark.
Yep.
That also contributes to that low inventory because the turnover is not there.
Oh, I agree with you. All right, here's another stat. Okay, about 13% of homes sold this past year were newly built, according to Realtor report, up from 12% from a year ago. So a lot of people, especially, and we're going to do a video on Wesley Chapel, where you live, and it's all new construction there pretty much. So down payment obviously is the hardest part, you know, of everybody. But we already said, here it is. The average income needed to buy a house was $107,000.
Okay.
Okay. Most home buyers need a six-figure income.
Yeah.
Between July 2022 and June 2023, first-time home buyers made up 32% of all buyers, according to this annual report from NAR, National Association of Realtors. But they're having a hard time. Like, housing has become unaffordable now.
Right. So we've kind of swung back to, remember the 80s? Now, I don't know how many people in our group are from the 80s.
Talk about that.
Remember in the 80s where it was the American dream to have a house in the 70s and 80s? Interest rates were 13 and 14%, and that was good. You know, so yes, I get it. Houses were nowhere near as expensive, but you also didn't make as much money either. So we're kind of coming into that, just an opinion, we're kind of shifting into that new phase again where not everybody's going to be able to afford a house right away. However, I just worked with a young couple that saved up all their money, worked a part-time job, and they just purchased their first house. And it's doable. It just might not be as fast as you want it, but it is doable because you just have to save up more money to put down to either buy your interest rate down.
To get the loan to where you could afford it, which you qualify the ratios. All right, let's bring it home. The housing market, the prediction for next year is a 4% raise to the average price of a house.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, are you guys believing this? They said the median price fell to $425 in October from $430, but they're still expecting it to increase overall next year.
Right. So again, kind of like what I said earlier, in that just right there from that article, they're measuring month to month, which I look at month to month stats too, but then you look at what's called year over year. And year over year, they're saying that we're going to increase about 4%. But that's really the average. If you look back from the last 10, 15, 20 years, that's about the average price growth in the area. And that's a healthy market. That's the way it should be.
I mean, people got scared when rates hit 8% now.
Of course.
What are they down? 7.5, 7.6? I don't even know.
Yeah, 7.4. They do fluctuate a lot right now.
They fluctuate. But even that little 1% could make a big difference.
That's about $200 on the average priced house.
So the moral of the story is nobody knows what's going to happen.
Right.
So if you need a house, buy a house. If you can't afford a house, don't buy a house.
Right.
Okay? And save money.
Yes.
That's my 2 cents.
Cut your expenses back to where you can, live life, still be happy. If you're going to need a house, make sure you make a plan. That's the biggest advice I can give you.
Don't just jump into.
Yeah, make a plan.
If you just think that you can afford the house, you can't afford the house.
Right.
End of story. If you think you can make it, you can't make it. You have to be positive, without a doubt. Anyways, that's today's video. I know we ran a little bit long because of the intro, but do me a favor. Watch the next video. It should be right here. Where Bill's standing.
Right here? Right here?
Yeah, it should be over there. And do me a favor. Subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Greatly appreciate it, and we'll talk to you on the next one.
Thanks. See you soon.
All right, bye.